Hey everybody, this is Dion Blanks and welcome back to another Wealth Wednesday. So today I'm going to be answering a question that I received from last week's video when I was talking about getting started with investing. So one of the viewers sent a message asking what if they don't have a lot of money, can they still invest? And the answer is absolutely, positively yes. So I'm glad that question was asked. So let me give you a couple of tips to getting started if you do not have a lot of money to spend on investments. Now this particular person had absolutely no money left at the end of the month and no savings as well. So let me start there. If you do not have any savings and you have no money, you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck, I definitely recommend that you start cash flow planning. Now, by trade, I am an accredited financial counselor and coach, so I do assist people with getting their cash flow together so that you can actually find money in your budget to start setting aside for your future. If you are really spending every penny that you have, that needs to be addressed first and figure out exactly what changes you can make in your budget, whether you need to spend less or make more. Those need to be addressed first before you go on trying to invest money, because you can't invest money that you don't have. That's number one. Number two, if you are not living paycheck to paycheck but you're just not saving, please get in the habit of putting money aside every single time you get paid. Now, if you do not have even $1,000 to cover an emergency, that is going to be the first goal that I would recommend for you. So if you get paid every week or every 2 weeks, go ahead and set up a direct deposit into a savings account equal to 10% or more, if you can, into that savings account, at least until it builds up to at least $1,000. That's to cover any emergencies that you may have. Now, after you build up that emergency fund into a savings account or a money market account or whatever, wherever you're going to send those funds, then you can look into investing. And since you're already in the habit of putting 10% aside, it would be nothing for you to just put it aside into a brokerage account. So let me get into that now. So a brokerage account is where you place funds in order for you to invest into stocks and bonds and ETFs and those types of securities. There are different types of brokerage funds, and some of them do not have a minimum. So let me tell you about a couple of options if you don't have a lot of money and you want to get started. These are some that I don't personally recommend necessarily that you start with if you are trying to build a significant amount of wealth, but it's a way for you to get started and see, kind of get your toes wet as far as investing. So let me start out with Acorn, because that is a question that I get all the time. Acorn is an app basically that allows you to invest your spare change into different ETFs. Now, ETF is an exchange-traded fund. An exchange-traded fund is basically a basket of securities like stocks, bonds, and different commodities. So what happens is whenever you set up Acorn, they invest your spare change. So say, for example, something comes up to, $1.50, and that next highest dollar is going to be $2. So they take that 50 cents and they invest that into an ETF. Now, if you make a lot of purchases, that could add up to a good amount of change. It's not going to make you wealthy, but it will allow you to get started. It is free, except I think it was like $1 or $2 charge that Acorn has. But as far as investing for you in an ETF, your spare change, you can get started with that and have a little pile of money. So it can add up, and that is an option to get started if you don't have a lot, and that is an option that you can use. Another option is M1, and this is the one I really like. It's called M1 Finance. So the reason why I like it is because it allows you to invest in companies but buy partial shares. So say, for example, you are interested in purchasing Apple. If you are watching this on an iPhone, that would be a great investment. But if you are interested in purchasing Apple and Apple stock is trading for, say, $400 per share, everybody doesn't have $400 to purchase a share of Apple. So M1 Finance allows you to purchase partial shares of Apple. So if you have $50 and Apple is trading for $400, you can still purchase a portion of Apple's share. So you would own about 12.5% of an Apple share stock. So you can just continue to add on to what you've invested into Apple until you get a full share of Apple stock. So that's a great option, and it is free to invest with M1, plus they give you money for even getting started. So I will include a link for M1 so that you can check it out for yourself, but I really like that. If you don't have a lot to get started with, it's a great option. Another option is Robinhood, and Robinhood is going to face some stiff competition now because Robinhood got so popular because it was commission free. It was great for people to get started, and it still is commission free, and it allows you to not only purchase stocks but also ETFs with no charge. So that is a great way to get started as well. The Robinhood app can be downloaded to your phone, and you can start investing at any time using that. It does not allow for partial shares, but it does allow commission-free investing. Now, speaking of commission-free, some of the larger brokerage companies, including E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, they went to $0 commissions. So back in the day, it used to cost like $50 to even place a trade to purchase a share of a company. Now those commissions have gone to zero, not just with Robinhood, not just with M1, but also now to the bigger brokerage companies that allow you to purchase shares of stocks. So now is a great time to get started. Even if you don't have a whole lot of money to get started with, I do recommend that you get the knowledge and understand how to evaluate companies before you start purchasing shares in companies. It is extremely risky for you to go out there and start purchasing individual shares of companies without understanding how to evaluate it, or trying to pick up stock tips from, maybe an online pop-up or a commercial that you've seen. That is not the way to go. So if you want help and you want to get started as far as figuring out how to evaluate companies and what metrics are important and what exactly you need to put in your Robinhood accounts or your M1 accounts, then please hit me up and I will get you started with the Abacus. We are an organization that helps the community figure out exactly what to invest in so that we can get started building wealth, and not just using the iPhone, but also investing in Apple. Not just playing the PlayStation, but investing in Sony. So it's important to get started, but I want you to know it's just get started. Even if it's starting with putting aside money and getting into the habit of putting aside some money and not spending every penny you have every single week. Start with that habit. Start there. Start somewhere, but just get started. All right. Thank you so much for joining me again for another Wealth Wednesday, and I will chat with you next week. Bye.